The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, but early in the morning he arrived again in the temple area, and the people started coming to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" They said this to test him, so that they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he bent down and wrote on the ground. And in response, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. So he was left alone with the woman before him. Then Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one, sir." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore." The Gospel of the Lord. A young soldier in the army of Napoleon was sentenced to be shot by a firing squad. He had committed a horrible crime. And just hours before the boy's execution, his mother personally sought out Napoleon and begged him to spare her son's life. Napoleon told her, "Madam, no way. Your son does not deserve mercy." And she answered, "I know. If he deserved it, it would not be mercy." God's ways are the ways of mercy, compassion, forgiveness, and looking beyond. God's way is the way of boundless mercy. How can God be so merciful to us? We find it difficult to believe that we go on sinning and sinning the same way over and over again, and God continues to offer mercy over and over again. Undeserved of it as we are, God just offers his mercy again and again and again. Jesus Christ is God's mercy incarnate. He invites his followers to respond to sin as he does. So our response should be one of merciful love. Love liberates. Imagine the freedom the woman in today's gospel felt when she was not stoned and Jesus forgave her sins. And it was not only the woman caught in adultery who needed merciful love. Those who condemned her were stuck in their own self-righteousness, and they needed that love as well. Forgiveness combines compassion with mercy. The crowd in today's gospel ready to stone the woman would do well to listen to the truthful words from a play called A Raisin in the Sun. In this story, a family has paid $10,000 from a life insurance policy. And against the wishes of her entire family, the mother lends the money to her son to start up a business. To his horror, the business partner skips town with the whole $10,000. When the devastated son informs his family of what has happened, his sister reams him up and down. In the midst of her attack on him, the mother says to her, "I thought I taught you to love him." And she responds, "Love him? There's nothing left to love." Her mother responds, "There is always something left to love. And if you have not learned that, you have not learned anything. Have you cried for that boy today? And I don't mean for yourself and for your family who lost the money. I mean for him, for what he's been through, and for what it's done to him." The mother goes on to insist that the time to love someone the most is when that person is at their lowest, when they can't believe in themselves anymore. And she also reminds her daughter that nobody knows the hills and valleys that the one who stole the money has been through. This does not mean that we excuse someone from being responsible, but it does mean we can never lose sight of empathy. It was the great fortune of the adulterous woman to have met up with Jesus. Had he not come on the scene, she would have been stoned to death. It is Jesus who in his mercy saves her. But it was also the great fortune of the crowd who wanted to stone her to have met up with Jesus. Had he not come upon the scene, they would have stoned her to death. And when their moment of self-righteousness had passed, they would have felt regret. Jesus seeks to remind everyone that we are all sinners and that God forgives all our sins, and so should we. In this story today, there are only winners, no losers. And God is able to do what we often cannot do. We see ourselves as we are, but God sees beyond what we can see and sees us as he made us and as we wish we were. God sees us for who we truly are. We are more the person we wish we were than, in fact, the person that we are. So in the gospel today, Jesus looks at Mary Magdalene and he can see beyond her sin. He can see to the person she really is, made in the image and likeness of God, who wants to love him. And the same for us. God sees beyond what we can see. He sees beyond the horizon of our sin and sees us as we truly are. Jesus is everything to me. You would not know that from my sins and failings, but he knows that and sees that. He is able to see beyond the horizon of my sin and can see so much more. So God's ways are the ways of mercy, compassion, forgiveness, and looking beyond. God's way is the way of boundless mercy. Forgiveness combines compassion with mercy. He sees us as we are going to be one day. So, it's just a matter of time until you can see yourself as God sees you and know you've been this person all along. So put up with yourself in the meanwhile. Trust in God's faithfulness accept his forgiveness. Accept the greatest humiliation of all, and that is not being as good as we want to be, not doing the best that we can, trusting completely in God's goodness and in his divine love. And the best way to trust in it, the best way to accept it, the surest sign that you have accepted it is when you can offer to others. Surely there's someone in your life today that you can offer that forgiveness to.